beautiful. Welcome back to Nat's Beautiful Life. Today I wanted to do the first half of my October wrap-up. The reason being is because as of the filming of this video, I have read 9 or 10 books. And so if I wait till the end of the month, I'm going to have like the longest video ever. It's going to be like 45 minutes and nobody has time for that. So I'm going to go ahead and do kind of the first half. So it's the 12th. So these are the books that I finished between the 1st and the 12th, and then also what I'm currently reading. So the first book that I finished or read this month was The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken, and this is a dystopian. It is about these kids that have special abilities. So during this certain time in history, these kids got a virus or a sickness, and a lot of children died, and it kind of manifests itself about the time they were like 10. And a lot of children died, but the ones who didn't die, they actually had a change in their brains, darkest minds, and so it caused them to have different abilities. And so this follows some kids that have these abilities that have escaped from the camp. So the government has put all these camps together. They're supposed to be rehabilitation camps, and they put the children in there for everyone's safety or what have you. And so this is basically the story of some kids who have broken out, but you also see their life in the camps and how bad they are. So it's also like following these specific characters, and there's also another group that is like doesn't believe that children should be in the camps, but they're also a little shady. So anyway, I actually did enjoy this book. It was, it's not one that I'm going to run out and get the next book right away, but I feel like if, I do like the way this one ended. It was fine. But I feel like if I get in the mood for another dystopian and I wanted to pick up the story again, I absolutely would, but I'm not like running out to get it. But I do recommend it, and I gave it a decent amount of stars. It was great. I thought the writing was good. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. The next one was an audiobook I did called Truly Devious, and that is by Maureen Johnson. Yeah. I always have my notes here, so that's why I'm always looking down. But this is one that has gotten really big on booktube lately, and it's about a murder mystery. And there are 2 murder mysteries. There's one kind of like in the 30s, and there's one in present day. And it's at a school that like somebody, this really rich guy who would be like today's day and age, like he'd be Ted Turner or something like that. And so he made this school, and anyone who can come to it for free if they're like really good at a certain particular skill or what have you, and they want to study that more. And so one gal or main character is very interested in true crime and forensics and detective work, and so she comes to the school, and one of her projects is she wants to solve the original crime from the 1930s, and mayhem ensues. This left me wanting to pick up the next book because it left on a cliffhanger. Like nothing was resolved. It literally just kept going. But like there was a couple of things that I guessed, and it turned out to be correct. So I enjoyed the book. It was well done, well written, but there was just some things that were just a little too predictable, so I did not enjoy it as much as I thought I would. And once again, it ended very abruptly, and I feel like I will grab the actual book next time because I can read it a lot faster than I can listen to it. Oh, the narrator for that book spoke like this, okay? "Did she see you?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. That is how she was. So I don't recommend the the audiobook for that, but just know you're not going to get to the bottom of things by reading that. The next book that I finished, I really, really enjoyed, 6 of Crows. I have a new favorite female character, Inez from the story Love her so much. I have ordered the second one. It's on its way to me. I really enjoyed this, and there's so much more to this book than you expect. In fact, I didn't even realize that there's a whole other universe that goes with this that's beforehand. The Grisha Chronicles or Grisha Trilogy. I actually ordered that as well. It's on its way to me. Because I thought at first, it took me a little while, and I've heard about this. It takes them a little while to get into this book because of the first couple chapters. It's really just setting you up, and you're learning about the characters. It's, it's setup, it's backup, it's boring. But once you get going in this book, it just doesn't stop and just takes you for a ride, and I really, really enjoyed it. My favorite part was the Grisha, which are these people who have special powers, and they're not really the main, well, I won't say, they are a very big important part of the story, but in this particular story, it's the regular, average, everyday humans, but that are kind of like what we're following, but there are Grisha there. I'm explaining this really bad. This is a good book. It's about a heist. Get it, read it, enjoy it. But yeah, like I said, I finished this. It wraps up the story, and then it sets up for the next book. It's a duology, so I have ordered that, and I've also ordered the Grisha Trilogy, so I can read all the books, because I really did enjoy this book, and I think this is the first thing I read by Leigh Bardugo, so I'm going to be picking up some more from her, I'm sure. The next book I read was absolutely awesome. Kindred by Octavia Butler. This was one of my fall bingo books. If you haven't heard about that, I'll link it down below. It's in my September wrap up. I talk about the fall bingo. This is a book that came out in 1979, and it is by Octavia Butler, like I said before, who was not only one of the first female science fiction writers, she's also one of the first African American ones. So double whammy. And so this book, because it was written in 1979, it takes place in 1975, and then the gal time travels. If you hear anything, I'm babysitting a dog and it's chewing a bone, and it's very loud, but anyway. Yeah, so she time travels to the 1816s, the 1810s, and she is a black woman who is in modern times, who's married to a white man, who travels to these times and has to deal with it, and she kind of goes back and forth. And there is, I'm not giving anything away, she realizes that she's being called by some of her relatives, like, and that's what's called kindred. Her, like, great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather is this little white kid that she is being called to when he's in trouble to help him out. And it's phenomenal. I couldn't put it down. It's phenomenal. Like, I could read this, I could sit down and just read this again. So, so good. 5 out of 5 stars. Please go pick this up. It's so good. The next thing I read was Midnight at the Electric. I had gotten this on Book Outlet because I really like the cover. And every time I see this book, I just get drawn to the cover. And book bingo, cover read. And this book is really good. I don't cry at anything, but I almost teared up at this one. So you've got 3 people that you're kind of following. The main character is, what is her name? Audrey. And she's in 2065. And then we're also following Catherine from 1934. And we're also following Lenore from England. Wow, that was a big change in lighting. England, 1919, and all these women are connected, and this is such a good book. And basically Audrey's at this home, she finds these letters, she finds a diary, and then they're all connected together, and then she finds out stuff. It's really a good book. I really recommend it. It's a quick read too. I just really enjoyed that. Next one. Okay, so Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I started out with the audiobook, in which I love the fact that Neil Gaiman himself is the narrator for the audiobook. And what's cool about that is because he wrote it, and so he is narrating it the way he heard it in his head while he's writing it. So that's why I love when an author is the narrator. He didn't just get handed a script and guess. He really knows what, what goes where. Okay, so it's a very quick read, and it got to the point where it's getting a little creepy, and I was like, no more audiobook for me. I need to go grab the book and just read it, because I can read a lot faster. That way I can get to where it's not so spooky anymore. But I really did enjoy this one. It's really cute. It is a supernatural fiction. It's not super scary, but there are some creepy parts where like the bad person just like is standing there and you're like, ah, like That's why I couldn't do the audiobook anymore. But I really enjoy this one. It's my first Neil Gaiman book. I actually have never read any of his before. I think I'm going to go pick up Coraline. I didn't realize that he wrote that. Yeah, because it's October, it's fall, and I like to read a little bit more mystery, thriller, creepy things this time of year. So, yeah. The next thing was manga. So I got, this is actually volume 1, 2, and 3 of Orange. This is a collection. And if you don't know about this manga, it's about, it starts off with a girl, Nehu, I want to make sure I'm saying that right. Neho, excuse me. Neho. And she receives a letter from herself 10 years in the future, and she's basically instructed to help this kid at her school take care of himself. I don't want to give anything away, but he's very depressed and down, and he's got bad things that have happened in his family, and so she's supposed to help him. So that's what this is about, and I really enjoyed it. Number one, does this not look like fall? Just everything about it looks like fall. I love it, and the artwork is beautiful. I just really enjoyed it. That was a fun little read. And it is a little bit of a sci-fi kind of a thing. I really like sci-fi and dystopian. And I've read more fantasy this year than I've ever read in my entire life, like combined. So I think I'm expanding my genres and my likes a little bit more. But anywho, the next thing I read, oh, here we go, in my hand. All Systems Go by Martha Wells. This is the first book, and I think a quadrilogy. So it's 4 books. It is a novella, and the Murderbot Diaries. I just saw Murderbots, and then I looked at the first, I was at the library looking, and this actually had been recommended to me by my local bookseller as well. I looked at the first little line, and it says, I could have become a mass murderer after I hacked my governor module, but then I realized I could access the combined feed of entertainment channels carried on this company's satellites. And I was like, murderous robots watching TV? Sign me up. I loved this book, and you will absolutely fall in love with Murderbot. That's what he calls himself. He doesn't know what else to call himself. This is a really good story. I really liked it, and it's set up, I don't know if we're going to go back to the humans he was around or if he's going to have other adventures. It's set up where he could do anything at the end, and I really like this. I do recommend it if you want to just kind of start out on some sci-fi. There is some mystery and intrigue and things like that. Some things happen while they're on this planet that he's there to like protect these group of scientists. And it's about that. And yeah, I really liked him. You know what it made me think of? If you've ever read, and if you're a human who reads, please tell me you've read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. That's one of my favorite books of all time. And there is a depressed robot in that series, Marvin. And he kind of reminded me of Marvin, though he wasn't really depressed. He just had social anxiety. He just didn't know how to interact well with humans without being like in his armor. And yeah, pick that up. It's a good one. The next one, and I think this is the last one I have to really talk about, is River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey. I could have a whole video just on this book, but I'm just going to condense it. So this really happened in the 1800s. Congress put forth a bill to possibly bring hippopotami. Isn't that how you say it? Hippopotamus multi? Is it hippopotami? I think so. To bring them over here because there was a meat shortage. Apparently people need their meat. And they were going to have them like in the Louisiana marshes because it would help control the certain plant or whatever that was taking over. And they would provide meat. Of course that got knocked down because we don't have hippopotamuses in our country, unless they're in a zoo. But this book is written as if it actually happened. And I don't know if you can see on the cover, they're actually writing hippopotamuses. And let's talk about this book really quickly. I liked the story. It was totally gritty, like, because remember, this is, like, they're cowboys, but instead of, like, cows, it's hippopotami. They're called hoppers. And the dogs are going to play now. Awesome. They're called hoppers. And they ride hippopotami with saddles. Okay, the book itself, good. Very, very gritty, very graphic in some of the bloodiness. But I would imagine that with the Old West. Now, because of the hippopotami being like Louisiana-ish, and if you're not in the US, you don't know what I'm talking about, instead of being the Wild West, it was known as the Wild South because instead of having all these like Texas cowboys and stuff, you had these Louisiana, Georgia, hoppers. And so it was funny. There's parts where like in the Old West, you see like the movies and stuff, they go to the taverns or what have you, and they would tie up their horses on the hitching post. They would have a pond for their hippopotami. They could just let their hippopotamus loose to go chill out in the pond. So the story itself, they're on this like operation, which is also a very funny thing, from the government to deal with feral hippopotamuses. Hippopotamuses is just fun to say. Anyway, because they were feral, so they had started eating people. And a hippopotamus is an herbivore. It just eats plants. But these had gone rogue and crazy because they had escaped. So people had like ranches with their hippopotami for like eating and stuff. And then you had the tame ones that you could ride. And then these were feral. Dogs are playing. They're not killing each other. Sorry about that. But I mean, that was a really fun story. I was like, killer hippopotamuses, sign me up. The problem I had with this book is there was some gender diversity in here. I mean, that's not what I had a problem with. What I had a problem with was it felt very forced. It didn't flow naturally. I mean, she tried to do that, but it didn't make sense. And yes, I know this is a book about hippopotamuses in the world. I mean, in the US. But there was still slavery in the 1850s, and that's wrong. But with a non-binary character in here who was referred to as they the whole time, even by people who just met them, didn't mesh with the rest of the background. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't make sense. But that's just it. As far as the book itself, like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. The story was good, and I believe there is more to this. So I believe that this is the first little novella, and there's more. But it was a good ride. It was a fun little thing. I was just in the mood. I read both of these yesterday, start to finish, and I had a full workload. I edited. I did all kinds of things, and I read these books. So anyway, I did enjoy it. If you like I said, it is graphic and like blood and guts type of thing. So if that's not your thing, you won't enjoy it. But if you're into westerns and stuff, this would be kind of fun to see. If we didn't have horses, we had a hippopotamus. This would be a good one. All right, so last book is the book that I'm actually reading right now on audiobook, and that is Feed by Mira Grant. It is our book club book of the month. And it was one where we all shoved in a bunch of books and picked like a certain number out. So nobody gets blamed. we're picking like all bad books. So this is about a post-apocalyptic time, so it's dystopian, where these two viruses, like, they cured the common cold and they cured cancer, but when those two cures, which were made from viruses, combined, they made the, I don't even know what it's called, the virus that basically made you a zombie. But it's the best. It's very dated because it was written in 2010. Supposedly the zombie apocalypse happened in 2014 and they're currently in 2039. So things that we have today aren't, that we don't, they're still using PDAs in 2039 and we don't use them in 2018. We use smartphones and things like that. So so it's kind of like dated things like that. But it's one of the best explanations I've ever heard on why a person with a virus would die and then come back, you know, fully animated, but not really be them, like be dead, basically the Walking Dead. And so, like, I give it Mira Grant props for that because it's awesome. The book is not like a literary masterpiece. Like I said, it's very dated, and I think that's what hurts it. It's not even available as a book at my library anymore. It's just an audiobook. But I am enjoying the audiobook because it's written in the first person, like the narrator is talking to you. And so it works. And I've really enjoyed it. I actually have. And it's a longer one. It's like 15 hours. But it doesn't feel like I've been listening. Like I'm like 5 hours in. It doesn't seem that way because it's a story. She's constantly telling a story. There's constantly some new information to tell. And I've enjoyed that. So, yeah. All right, like I said, if I had made a video of an entire month of October in one sitting, this would be a flipping long video. This is already a flipping long video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it and I appreciate me splitting it up. I will see you guys next time at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month to tell you what I read throughout the rest of the month. Yeah, that makes sense. Have a great day, gorgeous.